Thank you, guests, for joining us today. You're all regulars, and so I'm sure you all know about the sign-in book. And I know we've got some people participate. We got 3 virtual participants as well as staff upstairs listening in. Thank you for those who are tuning in online. We do stream all of our meetings live, and so you don't have to come in, but to monitor our work. But we're very glad for those who do. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I hope everyone's had a chance to take a look at the proposed agenda. Without objection, we'll approve the agenda for today's meeting. And hearing none, the agenda is approved. We have, item number 2 is minutes. We have minutes from our meetings of January 13th, January 21st, and January 28th that are just waiting to get posted online. Everyone have a chance to take a look at those minutes? Without objection, we'll approve the minutes of January 13th. Hearing no objection, those minutes are approved. Next, we will, without objection, approve the minutes of January 21st. And hearing none, those minutes are approved. Finally, without objection, we'll approve the minutes of January 28th. And hearing none, those minutes are approved. Thank you, everybody. We are up to date on our minutes. Next is item 3, office updates. Director Duncan.
Thank you, Jake. I just have 3 updates from our last meeting. One is that the district meeting that we talked about between the Directors Association, the Board Association, and the state is confirmed for March 28th. I don't have a time yet, but that date is confirmed. So if you could save that date, that would be fantastic. And I don't know who the speaker will be, but we'll have someone speaking there. The state is going to organize that. And then relatedly, I will be the speaker at 2 other districts. Burke County this week, and I actually don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Chowan County? Chowan County? So I'll head there with John Nose and talk about our adventures through Helene. And then my third update is a brief one for the budget. So had a meeting with Tim. We brought that to you all. And then our next task was to create a presentation to send for Avril's review. During that time, in our budget review for this cycle, we think that we can purchase those totems and the ballot bags out of this budget. So that is almost $18,000. And so as long as the board is okay with that, then we would reduce our ask by that much, as long as we're actually able to make that purchase, which I think that we will be. So I just wanted to make sure that the board was okay with doing that.
I'm sure that we do have enough money in the current budget to cover that.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, considering the county's interest in reducing expenses, if they have any issue with our moving up those expenses.
Thank you for asking. Yes, so we kind of cleared it through all of the finance and budget pass first to make sure
Good.
that was an acceptable, and it is.
Which budget are we going to be in when we supposedly move?
This one.
And
FY
do we
25.
have any expenses that we need to consider for that?
That's a tricky one. The construction project does have money to help. So, and I'm sure that we'll talk more about this stuff in a bit, but I am meeting with a move manager. I believe it's next week. And we're also doing a tour of the space as a team tomorrow. And we would ask for, any furniture and things like that that we might need at that time, and the county's construction project is supposed to cover those. But with a move and all of these operational changes, there's always things that we
Well,
might
I was just wondering if we move money out of this budget to what we were gonna have for next budget, that could be money we could use for that, not knowing what it's gonna be.
That's a valid concern. Victoria, do you know like approximately how much we have?
Where's that? Sorry.
$106,000 left remaining in our budget. Some of that will need to be spent on, our continuing voter registration mailing.
Yeah, some of that is encumbered, is earmarked.
Do we
but-
have any kind of percentage of what we think we would have at the end of the year? I mean, some of that is sort of kind of a loose idea. Is it 20,000 or 20% or 50%? Do you think at the end of the day that we'll have left?
I think that we typically have about 20 to 40,000 remaining in our budget at the end of the year. But that does depend on, what.
Comes up.
Yeah, what comes up, if we're able to purchase things out of this budget, then we'll be able to purchase out of fiscal year 26. But in the past, we have had money left over in our budget.
Okay, thanks.
I think that we would be fine, but we do have a long period, a relatively long period, March, April, May, June, and a possible move. Maybe this is something that needs a vote. I want to make sure that, the board agrees.
So we need a motion to take the 17,000 or whatever the number is for the bags and the supplies from next year's.
It would be, if we're able to purchase out of this year, that, yes, please do that and reduce the budget request by that much.
All right, I will move that. Let me get this. Move that we shift the purchase of totems and ballot bags from fiscal year 26 to fiscal year 25 and reduce the fiscal year 26 budget request by that amount. Any?
Is that contingent on approval?
I think she's already gotten,
Yeah, I think we're good.
she's walked it up the line, haven't she?
Contingent on approval for purchase now, or, yes, we have approval for purchase.
That's
We haven't-
happened.
so we
Yes,
don't
we
need to
just-
make that part of the.
All right, the motion before the board is to shift the purchase of this equipment from the next fiscal year to the current fiscal year. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you. The motion carries 5-0. So, go get that stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that was it for office updates.
Correct.
Any more elements for office updates? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the fourth or fifth time for elections facilities discussion. Last Friday, Mr. Aceto and I met with Assistant County Manager Tim Love. I don't know, I guess we met for about an hour, a little more than an hour. Mr. Aceto and I did our best to try to make clear to the Assistant County Manager that we were very, very concerned about moving into 35 Woodfin under the plans that have been presented to us. The meeting was very cordial, but there was no real give and take. I don't think Mr. Love was authorized to change any of the plans based on the discussion at that meeting, and there was no movement in that direction. It's very clear to me, I cannot speak for Mr. Aceto on this, but it's very clear to me that the county has made up its mind on this, and county management has no interest currently in changing the plan. Anyone who shares the concerns of this board about threats to election integrity and security, I would encourage you to communicate those concerns with members of the county commission, because they're the only people who are going to change this thing at this point. The county has space, and the county has to determine a set of priorities. And I think that we have tried to communicate to county management how important maintaining our election integrity and security is, not only for the sake of our operation, but for the sake of Buncombe County and the image of Buncombe County in the eyes of the community. It seems that county management does not share our perceptions about threats to election security and integrity. I am disappointed by that, and I think the best way to proceed is to inform members of the community about this proposal, because the space discussion has not occurred in public. It's all been in the office, and folks are going to be surprised when they see this. Anyway, I was grateful for the meeting, but I was disappointed in its substance. The county manager did not join us at the meeting, so it was just the assistant county manager, Mr. Aceto, and myself. I've talked enough. Mr. Aceto, could you please lend some perspective?
I would simply add a devotional reading from the book. Section 163:37. Respective boards and county commissioners shall appropriate reasonable and adequate funds necessary for the legal functions of the county board of elections. So that's the legal standard that the commissioner should be able to have they reasonably and adequately provided for the legal functions of the county board of elections. If our concerns went beyond that to the optics and perceptions of the community. Other than that, I have nothing to add to Jake, other to say that your chair acquitted himself well. As expected.
I didn't yell at anybody.
Was the county manager, she was specifically invited to the meeting, right?
When I sent the email to Mr. Love requesting the meeting, I copied the county manager on that email. And when the meeting was set up, I was given to believe that the county manager would join us. I may have misunderstood that. I may be guilty of misunderstanding who was going to be at that meeting.
Did he say why she wasn't there?
No, no. He didn't say, and I didn't bring it up, I didn't ask. I was hoping to engage the assistant county manager on, the issues that we had raised. He listened to us, he had read the resolution, he listened to us. But there was no negotiation at all.
Did he say what was going to be done with this space?
Yes, he did. And he asked us to keep that confidential. I'm happy to share that with members of the board, but I do want to respect the assistant county manager's request regarding confidentiality. So I'm not going to put it on the record in this meeting right now.
But, I mean, did you get the idea that that was a decision that had been made and was going to go forward?
Yeah, and there wasn't any room for discussion about the decision or its merits. That we were presented, okay, this is what's been decided, so this is what the county is planning to do. I'm guessing that if we had been involved in the process 9 months ago, things might look different right now, but we weren't. We were excluded from that process. And now we're being told, this is just the way it's going to be.
Mr. Quinn, I would add one thing. If we could review, each one of us, I don't know that you want to review all of these in the meeting, but 163-33, powers and duties of the boards of election, county boards of election. And if you'll read through here, there are a number of things that I think this facility is not going to allow us to do that we are supposed to do. It's
Can you give us an example? What pops
one I
out?
was looking at particularly. You provide for the purchase, preservation, and maintenance of voting booths, ballot boxes, registration, poll books, maps, flags, cards of instruction. It just goes on to the list. But how can we provide for the preservation and maintenance of these things if we have no control of our space? I mean, we're supposed to make sure that these things are maintained and provided for. But if we don't think the space is sufficient or is effective in doing that, and there are several others too, because we're talking about how we have to maintain the ballots, how we have to provide security for those, how we have to maintain them for 22 months. And I was going to ask the director, when you go tomorrow, the room beside the shared boardroom, there's a room for our in 950s. And then there's a room they said was for our secure storage, and I'm not sure I could secure my storage, my personal storage in that room. And I'm curious just how many rooms we have around here that are secure storage, and I can't imagine that room is sufficient.
So that space is supposed to replicate this and this and the
And it's,
back room.
what, half the size of that?
Well,
It's, Jake and I walked
It's-
through it, and it's small.
It is much, much, much smaller, much tighter. Even the windows are smaller.
Yeah.
windows are smaller.
But my point being that the powers and duties of county boards of election, it specifically says there are things that we have to be in charge of and we have to do. And the space that we're going to do it in is going to affect how we're going to do it. So,
And commissioners are obligated to fund that according to 136,
right.
13637.
Yep.
So you can make a detailed case for a failure to accommodate the legal functions of the board. That's a start. you do with that, I'm not sure.
No, it's a
Well-
place to start.
Yeah, it is, and if we're going to, at some point today, take Ms. Duncan's suggestion about putting some resolution together to potentially send to our commissioners, we might want to put that piece in there, but,
Yeah, I think that is the resolution, it's basically that we can go chapter and verse through what Mary Ann read as to legal functions of the board and whether or not they pass or fail. And in the context of 13637, it says they must fund. Now, it doesn't say about physical facilities, it just say must be funded,
adequate,
so.
and adequate or something was the word,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
it's
Something
magic
about-
words, it's always magic words. Magic words are reasonable and adequate.
Reasonable and adequate.
And that's my concern is they're not adequate based on what we need to do and when we need to do it. There's also 16331, meetings of the County Board of Elections, quorum and minutes. And it basically says, we'll hold meetings at such times as the chair of the board or 3 members may direct. So a shared boardroom is gonna limit that, and by law, those meetings are supposed to occur when we decide they're gonna occur, not when it suits the county to let us use the room.
It's been suggested that we take the resolution that we drafted a couple of weeks ago and redirect it to the county commissioners. And in order to do that, it would require only slight modification. We would just take out the final whereas clause in the original resolution and change the resolved clauses to request the county commissioners that we remain at 59 Woodfin Place until more suitable,
More adequate.
okay, more, thank you.
Reasonable and adequate.
More reasonable and adequate facilities could be set up for us. So I just want to throw that out as a possibility. Kick off a little discussion. Just a sec, Mr. Black. Any response to that?
Well, I mean, are the movers coming March 1st or thereabouts? When?
I think, well, I'll learn more in the MOVE meeting, and tomorrow actually, to know what stage of construction that they're in. I do think it's close to being complete. And that March is the target for the first phase of departments moving in, and we're not in the first phase. I think that there would be flexibility for when we would move in after those first departments moved in. And I have an email that lists those. I don't know them off the top of my head, but
Probably tax and tax collections first.
I would assume, but
Mr. Quinn,
Mr. Aceto?
as to a form of resolution, and I wish I'd thought of this when we were working on this earlier, I just didn't think of it. But we want to go through the legal duties of the board, and that becomes basically the bullet points. And then as to each one, we would be advised to be excruciatingly specific about what we have, what we presently have that fulfills that reasonable and adequate, and what is being, compare it to what is being proposed. So at this point, it's necessary to be, in other words, necessary to be very specific and refer to the statute, as we did with the issue of Ms. Duncan's compensation. And we do that because that's what the law requires us to do. And we do that because if there's ever going to be a basis for an "I told you so," it has to be. It has to look like that.
Did you get the idea that, I'm pretty pessimistic about this, given that it's February 11th. Did you get the idea that there could be a switch made between whoever's coming in here? I guess my question is, they've decided that somebody is coming in here, and you can't say who it is. So what are you going to say to them if they say, well, where are we going to move this outfit or this organization that's moving in here? Where are we going to put them?
It's not our problem.
Not my problem.
Well, they're going to ask.
It's, what it comes down to is the county determining priorities. And the department that I think they're expecting to move in here does not have the level of activity, scrutiny, or legislative mandates that we do. The county is able to operate that other department as they see fit. As we know, Section 163 of the North Carolina General Statutes describes in a great level of detail how we've got to operate and how the county has to make sure that we operate. And that's just not the case with this other department. And I, for one, do not understand the decision. There wasn't a real attempt to I did ask the assistant county manager to sell us on this proposal, and there was no attempt made whatsoever to sell us on the proposal. So I think decisions have been made, and it's easier for county management. The county management believes it's easier to stick with the decisions that they've already made.
Is it, in terms of the Board of Elections going over to 35 Woodfin, is that something the county commission has already considered in some fashion?
I have no idea. None. No idea. I would be surprised if the county commissioners are familiar with a proposed move at the level of detail that we've seen. I mean, we've taken tours, we've been briefed, question and answers. I'm guessing that this is more county operations as far as they're concerned. They don't see any policy piece in this.
So, Mr. Quinn, I know it sounds an awful lot like work, but I think the logical next step is to literally take the floor plan that we presently have, match it up with the statutory duties of the board, compare it to what we're being asked to move, and describe the inadequacy.
Right.
And it has to be at that level of detail. And all the optics and all the other things that we talked about really disappear. We really are in a position that all we can argue is the statute and our interpretation of it, and put legs on it in terms of what we do now that's adequate and what we propose to do that we perceive inadequate, and why, and literally take the two floor plans and lay them on top of each other, paragraph by paragraph. And only then do we have a record that I think could give anybody pause regarding their decision, knowing that that's a pretty complete "I told you so." And also it gives our stakeholders something to get their hands around other than that they just don't like it. So I think there's some things going on away from the ball here that we probably shouldn't talk about even if we could. But this is the only thing I can think of. And also, if we're ever going to escalate this, I'm not saying that we could or should or would, but you know, we need that level of detail to
Right.
do it.
Right.
Are you finished? Are you finished?
I am so finished.
Yes. So done.
Boy, me too. So, two questions, or two thoughts. One was to follow up on Mr. Schultz about the kind of the pessimistic piece of this and the urgency of it. That we are looking at 2 or 3 weeks now, and I don't know how many county commissioner meetings there are. And as we give this information to our community, and after we've done the refashioning that Mr. Aceto and you have talked about, we need to know when the commissioners are going to meet, who needs to be there, those kinds of things as well, because the clock is really ticking. And also the part around Mr. Aceto's idea around the optics, I totally agree. We need the law and the hard facts, but boy, those optics are in there too around what happens if we don't, if somehow or other it is seen that the Board of Elections is not doing a good job, and that's going to fall on our county commissioners again. So somehow making sure that those suggestions are still in that resolution, I think, is part of that I told you so, that we need to have written down.
No, I
You know,
see the
Sam,
value in that thoroughness.
Seems to
Mr.
me
Schultz?
that this may sound crazy, but it's really not. It seems to me that the only way that you could make this work is to do something like Steve's talking about, to have a detailed enough presentation, but also a threat to bring a lawsuit against the county, which has been done before, I think, in certain counties, but
It has.
of course, you have to find somebody. You have to find somebody to pay a lawyer to do it, and that's another issue. But
Well, this is how you prepare for that trial. And this is a way to bring that, to raise that without ever saying it.
I saw Miss Duncan over there wince when I mentioned. But it has been done before, I think, if my recollection serves me correctly. Not that that's something you would want to do, but I just think, my sense is that you guys, as hard as you tried, and since my time here is limited, I'll be blunt, since as hard as you tried, you basically got blown off.
True.
The county manager didn't show up for a meeting that she was specifically invited to. And that strikes me as bad form. That's my own personal opinion and not the opinion of anybody else here. But she should have shown up to a meeting. It's an important organization within the county, which actually answers to the state the county has to support financially. So you got blown off. And that just, I think, made the county look bad. After all this effort that you put into it, and the effort that was put into putting that resolution together, I frankly think it's kind of insulting.
Well,
And the county commission ought to, I hope somebody watches this on the county commission, I think the county commission ought to pay attention to that their management has behaved this way.
okay, well, there's approaching the county commission, which, we could do with a resolution from the board. There's also approaching the county commissioners individually. And just so y'all know, I have it in mind to speak with at least 4 county commissioners whom I believe will be sympathetic and try to get them to look at the bigger picture on this thing. The last time that we were frustrated when county management didn't agree with a resolution from this board, we took it to the county commission, and the county commissioners supported us. That could well happen again.
And that was
The
with,
difficulty this time is, excuse me?
well, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that, just so I'm clear, that's with respect to the director's salary.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And, well,
There's not that much difference. That was supported by statute also.
exactly, we prevailed because of what the law said and what a court decision had said 10 years earlier. There's nothing that this board can do about the county's timetable. The county could have come to this board 9 months ago when this project started, but didn't. So once we saw, and we heard about 35 Woodfin. Board of Elections has been at 35 Woodfin in the past, and it was okay. It's a different arrangement this time. Far more departments shoehorned into that building than was the case previously. And once we saw it, it was like, well, there's 35 Woodfin, and then there's that thing that you just built. It's not like the 35 Woodfin with which we were familiar and where we had worked previously. Much, 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 much different.
I mean, I
I'll
think
add that our staff is much, much larger than it used to be, and our operation is more complex, and there is more scrutiny. Mr. Aceto did an absolutely fabulous job on Friday of getting the assistant county manager to understand how extensive the scrutiny is. And I think the folks in the Community Affairs and Public Engagement Office know that, and the folks who come to these meetings, but otherwise, I don't think folks really understand the scrutiny that we receive. We receive scrutiny probably just as great as the tax assessor's office does. And
So we ready to work on that?
well,
Well, Mr. Quinn, I do want to make sure that we make it very clear that this is the board's idea
Oh, yeah.
and not Ms. Duncan's idea, because she has to deal with these birds
right.
every day. So we were talking to her supervisor, nominally. Her supervisor is the law that says what you and I have to do. But functionally, you know, she has to answer to these people. So, it's very hard to think of a way to do this without putting Corinne in the middle and the rest of her staff. And I don't know that can be avoided, but we do the best we can. And one thing is to make it very clear that she didn't ask the board to
Right.
oppose this.
Right.
She didn't ask the board, you know, she didn't supply any, she hasn't been putting fuel on this fire. So, because when we all are dead and gone, she'll still be here and she'll be having to deal with them.
Right.
So, that is, we have to bear that in mind. But I would like to, I'm not sure how to start with this, but it's just in terms of structuring, is if you just start with the duties statute and the floor plan and just creatively, you know, show that and as bullet points, this is what's happening. Now, this gives people some, something they can get their hands around, and it creates more of a legal argument as we did with the, with Corinne's compensation. But it could be that we're still paying for that.
I do believe that is the case, sir.
So,
Sorry. Sorry.
What do you mean paying for that?
That there's ill will?
We have made it clear that we have a legal priority that supersedes the authority, the administrative authority of the
County
county
manager.
manager. And one never brings up such a thing without paying for it somewhere.
Yep.
So here we go. There's more I could say about that, but I won't. But that's all the more reason not to put Corinne in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I mean, that.
But it's
that
also
happens to-
all the more reason to follow through with this because we do have a legal mandate and the county management needs to understand that.
I think we
This
are-
board,
we-
and I'm
we-
talking-
We simply, our objective in this case is not to embarrass anybody or to
No.
test anybody.
Amen.
It is simply to follow the law and to encourage the commissioners to do likewise.
Is there a
And
way
it's
to-
not more complicated than that.
Is there a way to soften that, though? Or what are you getting at with regard to the resolution? Is there a
Well, the
way to say
resolution,
that?
by making it very specific, to the extent that this is what we understand as our legal duties, and this is how this impacts our legal duties. And we don't have to go into any other detail about anything else, but that's, you know, that really is the whole case.
Right. So what were you worried about with regard to putting her in the middle any more than that? I didn't know if there was some way we could soften that resolution or make it clear that this is our decision.
Yeah, we need to make it clear in terms of what's in our minutes and also how we talk about it, how we talk about it with our stakeholders, how we present.
Got it.
Is that this is, and in terms of our own resolution, that this is coming from the board. And that's one reason it takes a form of a board resolution. And that's one reason our last meeting was a board resolution and not just, oh, Corinne, would you arrange a meeting?
Right.
So that was lifting her out of that to the
Right.
extent we could, and we'll just have to continue to do that.
I'd be curious, though, as to what, Corinne, you think about it. I mean, do you think it's better to make the best out of a bad situation, or go to the, or do you want to say? Just leave it to the board.
You just put her in the middle, thank you very much.
Okay, but, you know, my concern, my concern is about the election integrity, it's about election security, but it's beyond that. And one of the things that we pointed out to Mr. Love on Friday was that there has been a string of moves of this group. In every single instance, the move has put us into better space for us to accomplish our mission until now. And there was no attempt to address that. And that's a fact. I mean, that is just a stone cold fact. And the difficulty that I experienced in the meeting, you know, not getting any sort of response to that was tremendous. And that's when I realized, well, okay, we're having a cordial meeting, and I'm going to have to go talk to county commissioners because county management just was not listening, or was not yielding on anything. There seemed to be no room for discussion.
Mr. Quinn,
Mr. Aceto,
I have one more thing to say, and then I'll crawl back under my rock.
please don't do that.
As I reflected on the whole thing, you and I we emphasized the messaging to the public and to the world beyond that it seemed to be so successful with respect to the 2024 election, that we perceive that being put at risk by sending people through a rabbit warren with signage, you know, whatever. We think we have a unique function that this election and that the staff's performance and the public response elevated the whole county in the eyes of the world, literally. I mean, I was on a train to San Diego, and we got to talking about the fires, and then we got to talking about the flood, and I mentioned that we had to deal with the election, and this Los Angelino said, "Oh yes, I read about you."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I mean,
so that is, you know, that's the kind of. So my question for you all as a board is, rather than wring our hands over this, there's been a virtuous thing that's been introduced to us. One was when we first heard of this, we said, okay, let's talk about what is our essential function, and how do we advance that in terms of you know, does it matter where we are? Does it matter what, you know, how does that relate to our function? We started a very important conversation there that was 30,000 foot level. So let's not lose that, you know, even if they put us, you know, if they put us in the basement of a jail, you know, it does not change our legal mandate and the fact that we have a relationship with the community now, and an extended community that we didn't have before. So how do we, as a board, take the lemons and make some lemonade? And nobody's going to figure that out today, but I want to just seed that idea that just to spite these people, if nothing else, that we as a board and as an organization come up with a way that our facility, whatever it is, affirms that relationship with the community and the world. And that, that is, we're gonna have to be creative about that, because it's gonna be hard to, I mean, no one is advancing that objective for us. And I mean, this goes beyond getting into some kind of a fight with the commissioners about whether we're meeting a legal mandate or not. I said, do we understand as a board what it is that we do in terms of the optics, make the accessibility, everything else that gains public confidence? And how do we think creatively about affirming that, no matter where we are? See, that's what we did with the flood. We were handed a pretty tough hand about how do you maintain the confidence of the public when you don't have a facility. How do you do that? You know what? You pulled it off.
Yeah, but
And the county helped. They didn't, they were not opposed to us on that. We did not do that by ourselves. So you've already done this in detail one time. When you didn't have the facility, you figured out what the real, what the soul of the thing was, and then you executed it. And that's the secret sauce. I wish
Actually,
we could find that and get it out and put it in the cookbook, because no, you're not gonna figure that out today. But that's really what we're about here.
yeah, but here's the problem with that. You say, we did all these extraordinary things during the flood. And the board did. And then they come back and say, everybody else in the county did extraordinary things too. So
Yeah, I
back
think
to.
we can
back-
say it to ourselves,
but,
right?
I mean, right, but I like the idea better, to say, if you can, and I'm not sure you really can, but if you could say, look, having a 5-foot barrier in a cubicle between Victoria and Karen Ray will create problems because of X, Y, and Z, which is what you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
To come in and start making these statements about, look what we did during the flood, or during the Helene. I just think they'll look at it and say, everybody else did the same thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's saying
suggesting-
that,
I'm
yeah.
not saying that that's not how we lead.
No.
We lead with, we lead with the floor plan. But I'm talking about the 30,000-foot view of what this board, how we see this and how we go forward, whether or not we make any progress with the county commissioners. We have an optical issue about how we see our own work and how we see our role. And I'd like to know that we have that part nailed down before we, in doing anything else. But no, Glenn, you're right. I mean, that's not necessarily going to move the heart and soul of the commissioners. Frankly, I think that ship has sailed. But that doesn't mean
Well,
that we
not,
don't
not
have
the
a legal
commissioners, you're talking
obligation
about
to-
the management, because we haven't even talked to the commissioners yet.
I think that ship has sailed. But we still have a legal obligation to make our case. We have to do that. So that's what I'm suggesting. And who knows, we might get lucky. I don't know, but,
So really what you're talking about is certainly the positive side of this, that we have done a lot of work and we've learned a lot about who we are and how we function in bad times and in good times. And I think we don't lose that. I think it's been nothing but solidified through this whole process. So, but as far as this resolution goes, I say we are as firm as we can be.
no, you can leave this out.
Yeah,
What I just
right, this
said
is all-
You could leave that out of the
exactly,
resolution.
this is- that's
That's not
for us.
the presentation of the commissioners.
Exactly.
That's for us.
Right, and in every single time we've moved, from 189 to 35, 35 to 77, 77 to the warehouse to here, staff has shown creativity, imagination, flexibility, and we have ended up with something that works. There's no doubt in my mind, given the caliber of staff that we have in Buncombe County Election Services, that we're going to make work whatever we're stuck with. But it is my hope that we are given every opportunity for maximum success. And that means not following the plan they have for us for 35 Woodfin. And that's the discussion that I plan to have with individual commissioners to raise their awareness of this and the impact that it could well have on the operation that they count on to get elected to office. Because right now, our community appears to have faith in the work that we do. And they trust the outcomes that we report.
Which translates to the county,
Exactly. And
and the
as,
image of this Buncombe
and
County.
as Mr. Aceto reminded us, I mean, this has been spread across the state, across the nation, and around the world. We had reporters from around the world reporting on the work that is being done here.
So let's get back to the legal obligation that
Yep.
we have, and let's focus on that, and we can celebrate the other,
Yeah.
and we are gonna need it, I think, going forward. But for the next 30 days, there's an exercise that's basically creating a legal foundation for a legal argument. That's what it boils down to.
Jake.
Director Duncan.
So I just wanted to make a few points. And just talk about my experience with the whole project, just briefly. Kind of give context, because I feel like the county management and the county commissioners have been supportive of elections. They definitely have, and I really appreciate that, and the relationships that we have in all of the ways have benefited us. So I want to make sure that there is, at least from me, I can only speak for me, but that I don't feel that there are people that are opposing elections. I think that where I think the issue is, from my limited window into the development of this project, is that there just has not been a lot of communication. We have had one meeting as directors, all of us going to move in there and be roommates together. One, in this whole process. When things started at the beginning, it was very, you're gonna move here, then you're gonna move here, and I lost trust in what the plan was going to be. All along, I made sure that I was providing data, though. Lots and lots of data. Tours, and detailed things about how we function, and giving it to different consultants in different places in the county. We have done this for 2 years, giving data. And so I think that that's where the breakdown is. I'm not sure that the commissioners have all of the information about the move. I'm not sure that the puzzle pieces of all the departments haven't really been worked out, because we haven't talked to each other much. So I really think that that's where all of the issues are coming from. And it's also why the construction is complete without everyone feeling that they're on board. And so I think that communicating is the objective here, and that there is some value in talking about helping the commissioners understand, giving them the data that they need to understand what's happening with our department, because I do think that they care, and so I do think that being direct and clear and brief about it is a good move. In that vein, I do want to make sure that, because it won't come out in the board responsibilities, but that one big difference between here and there is that there's no place for voting. And that is something that we are obligated to provide for. So
I've got that highlighted.
So,
So we'll add
so
that,
that, you know,
right.
we
Number
would,
9 is to receive the returns for primaries, elections, canvases, returns, make abstracts, transmit the abstracts to the proper authorities to issue certificates of election to county officers, members of the General Assembly, except those elected in districts composed of more than one county, you know. But also, we've been told we have a place for registration, but we have, as provided by GS 16328, it's up to us to fix and provide places of registration and for holding primaries and elections. And like you say, there's no place there
yeah,
for
so
an election. or-
for the municipal elections, we hold
Right.
voting here. And so we would have to have another location. So though, you know, these kind of things are very concrete, to Steve's point,
The
concrete.
memo says, here's the floor plan of where we are now, 59 Woodford Place, and this is where these things take place.
Right.
And we cannot point to a spot at 35 Woodford where they can or will take.
What we can point to is where those activities occurred the last time we worked at 35 Woodfin, but we can't use that space anymore because there's no more lobby. We used to have a voting location in the lobby at 35 Woodfin. That was the transfer station.
Well, that's.
And there's
again,
just-
That's part of the
there's
floor.
no- exactly,
plan
and it's-
comparison.
Yeah.
It's good that you bring that up.
Yeah.
I went
No,
around for that. That's very good.
I'm glad to have spent a lot of time at 35 Woodfin back in the day.
Can we, at this point in time, and I think we've made from what you have said, you've made the point in the past that we should have a standalone location. But I think now's the time that we need to say, we need a standalone location, whereas whoever they might be moving into this location, they got a lot of space they just built. Nice new space
Right.
for some other department, and we are not. They say that we're forward facing, but we're not collaborative. We don't collaborate. The only people we collaborate with is emergency services.
And PR.
Yeah, but you can do that by phone. You don't have to be next to them to do that.
I see.
You know, I'm talking about, we don't have to be in a building to collaborate. If you collaborate with emergency services, we go to them, to their location, and make plans, and then they come here when we need them here. We don't collaborate with tax. We don't collaborate with planning. We don't collaborate with any other department, because what we do is completely separate from what the county does.
And then the last point that I just wanted to make is that, again, to Steve's 30,000 foot view of things, it is absolutely true that whatever scenario happens, we will make the best of it, and we will make things secure at 35 Woodfin. If we move there, it will just be more complicated.
Yes.
And when it's more complicated, it tends to be more expensive. And that's one of the messages that I want to share with the commissioners, that we will maintain integrity. We will maintain security, but it's going to take extraordinary measures to do that, and extraordinary measures tend to be extraordinarily expensive. Maybe they won't be.
Why would it be more expensive, though?
Why?
I mean, what would be the source of the expense?
In order to secure documents as we move through shared space, we're going to have different protocols than we currently use. We don't have shared space here.
Yeah,
This floor is ours. The second floor is ours.
That's
And-
the floor, part of the floor plan.
Yeah.
yeah, but the reason I asked the question is not really more rhetorical, because if you say something like that to the county commissioners, the thing they're gonna ask is, well, why is it more expensive?
It's-
I mean, I'm not saying,
That's the floor plan.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm looking for an answer.
Right, and it's just a
Right,
matter
it's
of
just-
showing them, as Steve has suggested, we show them the status quo, here's how it works. At 35 Woodfin, we're not in that space yet, but based on our knowledge of our operation and what we're seeing in this space, it looks like we're going to have to do these 3 steps that we don't currently have to do in order to maintain the security of those documents, and that we have, we're going to have to document things in ways that I don't think we've had to do in the past with respect to who's handled this and that, making sure that it is bipartisan, and making sure that county employees from other units are not accidentally coming into restricted space. We're going to have to be a lot more careful on the day-to-day operation in a shared space than we do here. Here we've got the locks on the doors, and you've got to have the pass key to open the thing. It's not going to be the case at 35 Woodfin. There's going to be a lot of open space where people are walking around with sensitive materials. And we're asking employees now to work in cubicles. And when they make phone calls to members of the community about a ballot that needs curing or something like that, the privacy that they have had in the past, they will not have in this new space. And we're going to have to find some way to accommodate the need to contact individuals in the community and respect their privacy. There are a lot of little wrinkles that are going to need to be ironed out that I don't believe county management has been really focused on because they're so small. But they're crucial to our operation and the perception of our operation.
And we will articulate that in terms of increased cost, because, for example, you've got to have 2 people or you just have 1.
Right.
To take something, that kind of thing.
We only have one door right now that people come and go into. It's not going to be the case over there.
I'm just not sure they're gonna buy that, but I mean, I'm not saying don't try it. I'm just saying if, you are sitting in a trial and, a judge would say, well, give me an expert who's gonna break this down into dollars and cents.
Okay, there's a measure of complexity that I don't think has been fully appreciated by county management, and that failure to recognize the complexity and the sensitivity of the operation is reflected in the plans that have been presented to us. And either modify the plans or just leave us where they are. I mean, that's what I'm looking for. And understand, eyes wide open, they're going to tell you that the move is going to cost X, but it's going to cost X plus, because there are things that have not been factored in, such as the couple examples I just shared about moving documents around.
Well, I know,
I've
not
watched it
necessarily,
do it.
but I mean, I just,
And this is all this is what you're doing here, and so it's an invitation to creativity on that, on your part as well as everybody else. And I think you'll bring some things here, and I'm talking about you personally, to this little process that will prove valuable. So I just want to encourage you to encourage you with that.
well, I just,
All right, in terms of next steps, but Mr. Black has had his hand up for the past 3 hours.
We haven't been here 3 hours.
I've been known to exaggerate from time to time.
Yes.
Jan, can I help you?
I hear what you all are saying. I think the idea of the floor plan on floor plan, legal requirements is all wonderful, needs to be done, needs to be stated. But I urge you to look at your audience, okay? Your audience right now has up to now been the management of the county, not the commissioners. But there's an audience beyond the commissioners that you might consider approaching. One way of getting a more neutral audience is the lawsuit, but don't know if you need to go to that step yet. If there are other people who may serve that function, and they may reside in Raleigh. Now, notice that you have bipartisan support for this concern. You've got people on both sides of the aisle who will support you in this. And if the right people speak to the right people in Raleigh, you may get some assistance from them. Now, I don't know if that's burning a bridge. It may burn a bridge, a political bridge, that is. But you do have the support of both parties behind you.
Mr. Black, if you have the ear of anyone in Raleigh, I would welcome you to share concerns with those people. And you know, that's something that anybody and everybody can do. I mean, we all have elected representatives at the local and state level who have to be concerned about this. I mean, anyone who is an elected representative cares about elections.
Which
believe
our
me.
commissioners are.
Exactly.
And one of the things we need to take to the commissioners is this is going to affect local elections.
Yes,
Right.
they are elected officials.
Well, we have their ear, and Dan, you know, there's no doubt about that. And going forward we do, but we need something to stick in their ear.
And that's
That's why.
Yeah, no, I
I'm
like
kinda
the floor
laser
plan, I
focused
like
on
the
this.
map idea. I think it's easier to develop numbers when you're doing that, and people like the
All those
numbers.
visual learners out there.
Okay.
We're both saying the same thing. What is the step now?
Right.
Right this moment that we can do, and can we get this resolution together tonight? I mean, I think all of us realize that we're on a time schedule here, and if we're gonna send a resolution to the commissioners, we probably need to get that done. In addition, I mean, Mr. Black is right. Anyone can call legislators and make them aware of the situation and the concerns. That can be done while we're working on this, but I think we need to get something to the commissioners as soon as we
Statute
can.
drives the map.
Right,
Map drives the resolution.
right.
Resolution, map, and statute drive the outreach to stakeholders. So step one is to try to articulate how it is that our legal obligation, which is also the legal obligation of the commissioners, is impacted.
Right.
And to do that in a very graphic, literally a graphic way. And I know it's a lot like work, but
Oh, it is a lot of work. No, I see the value in terms of making it as clear as possible for anybody to understand our arguments.
well, it makes it clear for us. We need clarity.
Bonus.
Are we gonna start with the original resolution and work on it?
I think those 6 bullet points and, you know, noting that we're supposed to be moving from 59 to 35, you know, that's all
I'm
fine.
suggesting that those are very good, but the real bullet points, and I apologize for not waking up to this early on, because we'd be halfway there if I thought of it, is what Mary Ann read.
Right. The elements of the law.
And I don't know that
And how we support them
captured
in
those in
those.
our bullet points or not.
I don't think
I
so.
wasn't trying.
No,
No,
I think
it's-
we
it-
talk about
it's real
them
high
within the issues that we brought up, but they're not shown as statutes of the law, and I think that is really
I mean,
important.
We're talking literally subsection A, subsection C, subsection D, here's the map that goes with A, here's the map that goes with B.
And we lay
here's the
out
map
what
that goes with C.
what the concerns are underneath that, yes.
The floor plan that goes with A, the floor plan that goes with B, the floor plan that goes with C. Where it is now, where it will be.
I don't think it'll be that different, frankly, when we finish, except that
No,
we've
you're
added
right.
the
We intuit those
the
things.
laws,
We just
right.
haven't-
Exactly, we've got most of the grist for what the concerns are for each one of those statutes. Why we think it's gonna be more difficult to meet those, and what the concerns are, so. It's just somebody's gotta take the time and energy to do it, so.
But if you prepare for trial, you don't have to threaten people with lawsuits. Learn that.
Wait, what was that?
If you prepare, I always tell my clients, and Glenn does too, if you think you money go to court, forget it. Prepare for it, and then you'll never have to.
Oh, okay.
Because you'll have focused the issues, either you'll talk yourself out of it, or you'll have something that is truly, you know, that's truly leveraged, that's logical and thought out. And that sends the optics of that are impeccable. I don't have to threaten you. I just show you what the law and what the legal effect of this scenario is, and you can draw your own conclusion.
So is what you envision going through 163-33 and pointing out the areas where the specific elements of the floor plan don't meet the requirements of the
Well,
law?
and this is important, is that we start with a positive, which is this is how we do it now. And this is why our current floor plan works, because it addresses sub A, it addresses sub B, it addresses sub C. Then having accomplished that, that's step one. Step two is to take the new floor plan and compare them. And that's when you can begin to do a cost analysis, because you can see, okay, this is lacking. How will this be compensated? Well, you know, there will be a cost to it. Will there be additional personnel? Will there be additional time spent by the existing personnel? What have you done by jacking up the kitchen, jacking up the living room that changed the kitchen cabinets? You know, I mean, that's the.
Well, I mean, to have a meeting here till 11 o'clock at night seems like it's
Yeah.
going to involve a diffuse conversation. It seems to me like it ought to, the initial, maybe go about it one of two ways, and I'm not suggesting either one of these is very good, but have, in the initial resolution, didn't Corinne and Nagy put that together, and then you revised it? Is that basically the,
And Mr. Quinn, I think you,
I mean, is that what happened initially?
some, yeah.
No, but,
Then we worked on it again as a board.
yeah, the board put this together. Steve had a big hand in this.
But I mean, in terms of kicking it off, how did that
Well,
work?
look, as far as doing this mapping thing, that's nothing that we can do in here. I mean, that's a matter of sitting down with the law, with a rough floor plan of what we have here. I'm assuming someone's got something around here or something.
For this building,
You know, with
we have the evacuation route things.
it. Great.
There you go.
Any port in a storm.
Okay, and then you just, now you go through, what are we
Right,
doing in
but
this space?
that's something that just requires
Mhm.
a few hours sitting at a desk and doing it. And then having other people take a look to see if it makes sense to them. Doing a revision.
There is one suggestion I have,
Please.
and this is really because staff is going to be moving into a situation where they've been in an office, now they're going to be in a cubicle.
Right.
Now, I can imagine this, and you know, I kind of, like I say, I imagine it because your specific workloads, I don't know. But I do know, for instance, if Justin is trying to get together our absentee ballots. Now, they've prepared a room for that, but are they going to be able to allow those, I mean, are they going to be able to go to lunch? Are they going to have to pack everything up?
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the cubicles that they're working in, what areas are they going to be working on things where if they need to take a break, they can't just get up from their desk, walk out, lock their door, and go to the restroom, go to lunch, come back, and, you know.
Yeah, but you're kind of getting ahead of yourself there, because, you know, you gotta eat this elephant one bite at a time. And the first bite of elephant is that, you know, we have Justin in this space.
Well,
doing-
yeah, that's kind
doing-
of what I
Doing
mean.
this that the statute says that we do. And that's the first step. And the second step is Justin in a cubicle
How's that gonna look?
doing what the statute says he's gonna do. Is that gonna work? So that's how you put these two together. But you know, the first step is to articulate what's going on right now.
And
It seems to work well.
If I remember from what I've been told that this room is frequently used in those types of things that need spreading out.
That's
And
right.
there's no place up there to spread out and still have a secure room.
So the idea is that during election periods, the place adjacent to the boardroom could be secured for elections only. It's just a big open room with cubicles. So we could move various operations down there, registration,
But the question is,
absentee.
does the cubicle setup
No,
work? It doesn't work for
correct.
what we're doing.
But,
Correct. We would have to use meeting space, we'd have to reserve space.
but I'm worried that we're going to get too deep in the weeds here. You know, I think what you started with the law was really good, and that somehow we named those parts of the law, and then we put under them what our concerns are. You know, the county commissioners are not going to read a 4-page,
True.
manifesto. So how do we get to exactly what we need to? Now, maybe the map idea works in a bullet form, that, you take one of those the mandates and you say how we do it now. That's the first line, and then, or in detail of what that means, and then what it'll look like in the next place. Instead of having a big map, I would suggest maybe doing it within a bullet form again under each one of those mandates that you're talking about. This is what we do now and why it works, and this is what was going to happen and what our concerns are. I'm just worried about overcomplicating this if we're not careful.
Yeah, but I see Steve's point. He's talking about dealing with the fact that we want this space and why we want it.
But, yeah, I think that if they understand what the problem is, they're going to say, well, where do we put you? And then we say, how about here? I mean, there's something about how I'm afraid if we get, we've hashed over the details over and over again 4 or
And,
5
yeah,
times.
Before we got this resolution.
Yeah, and we, again, like we've talked about, the clock is ticking here. So the less number of hours and still get the good, valuable product that's going to lead us down the right road. I totally agree with that. But I am worried about how much detail we put in this resolution. And we've got a good start. You brought up the really good point about how we fit it to the law. How does that look at the end of the day? If we start showing them this map and that map, I'm worried about how that's gonna go over, especially providing it to the public, who's gonna also be talking to our elected officials. We've got to consider that as well.
Is it those are great points. I just, before I forget this question, it seems like it's better for 1 or 2 people to take a first shot at putting this
Absolutely.
together. But is it a violation of the open meeting law to pass it around one to the other for review?
As long as we're not meeting.
Well, I just don't. Or to put it in the, send it out in an email.
Yeah,
and
AK's been very helpful
Yeah.
in enabling us to share things without having a meeting.
You can't all be on, like I can send something to you in an email, but y'all can only reply to me, you can't reply
To each other.
Right.
Right, we can't have a seriatim discussion. Okay. That answers my question.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Unless someone else wants to do it, I am going to get floor plans for 59 Woodfin and try to make sense of 16333 in light of that floor plan. And then I will share that with AK and ask her to share that with everybody. And then we've got to figure out how, once everybody agrees, okay, this is what the status quo looks like, then mapping our operation to this new floor plan and showing where we might have some issues would be the next step. But I would want to get the first one nailed down first. It'd
Are
be
we going
nice.
to use the previous resolution at all?
Yeah, I think so. But rather than worry about resolution, I want to worry about the information that we have. I think it does make a whole lot of sense
But we.
to make sure we're all reading the same
I do,
thing the
I do
same
too, but
way.
as far as beginning the talk with our county commissioners, we
That-
have
that-
what we have.
That, you could start doing that today.
Yeah.
But in
Well, my
terms of
question
something
was really
formal-
more, can we take that resolution, modify it slightly, and get it off to the commissioners while we do this background work for a meeting with them?
I think so. Well, this is probably the best time to bring up the question of when should we meet next?
Tomorrow.
I can't do it tomorrow. The next day, I can do it Thursday.
But seriously, that is the next agenda item, next meeting date, and considering the imminence of the proposed move and the necessity to get our points in front of the commissioners and the community as soon as possible, what makes sense to anybody?
About the 13th, day after tomorrow. Gives you a day to think about what you,
Well, unfortunately, the reason you didn't see me at 3:30 was because I had lost my phone. And I was looking for it frantically when I ran out of time. So I can't give you any meaningful response about when to do this. My apologies. I don't know where the little guy is, but he's on vacation.
That's why an Apple Watch is a good thing.
Yeah,
You can find it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I am not. I am on the county tour on Thursday, but
Yeah, I can't.
on the
do
county
Thursday.
what?
I can't do Thursday.
I'm going to Burke County to do the tour
Oh.
with John.
We have Friday.
Friday, I am meeting with the 35 Woodfin Move well, I have lots of meetings that day, but I'm not necessary for the meeting either.
If it's in the afternoon tomorrow, I literally could do it.
Yeah, that's the one, well, not that I.
Of course, that's pretty
Well,
quick. I don't know that we'll
right,
have
I
anything
think
together.
how much work needs to be done
Yeah.
prior to this meeting, that's one of the
You might want
questions.
to give yourself a week.
Well, yeah, that's a long time.
But I would like to get something into the county commissioners because we can't meet them probably for a week anyway.
Mary Ann, how do you feel about coming in here, working with me
Good plan.
to get this, to get something that we can circulate amongst the,
Okay.
and,
Great.
and we could do that tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, it have to be in the
Perfect.
afternoon, but
Okay.
yeah, I could do it.
Okay.
And then if we are circulating it, then I would be a little more comfortable with waiting till next week, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So, what time tomorrow?
Let's see.
1:30?
Deal. Okay.
And from the county commissioners' website, they're meeting on February 18th and March 4th and March 18th.
Yeah, we
So
need
the
to get to-
18th, I mean, March 4th, it's a done, I mean, when, you don't know when the move actually is.
Well, but-
Well, we're not gonna be the first ones
Right.
anyway.
We're not
Got it.
phase
So
one,
there's
and
a
it begins
stagger.
in March, so.
Got it, okay.
And,
And they're assuming that they can move people when they're, last time we were over there, they weren't ready.
Yeah, sure.
They
Truly.
weren't ready.
I'm sure that they've been busy, though. I
Oh, I'm sure they
I've
So
have.
been
you
there
think
for
March 4th would be time enough?
a couple, 3 weeks.
Well, you're the only two people who've seen the space, right?
Yeah, Mary Ann
You and
and
Mary.
I got a tour from Scott.
Did you, I mean, you saw all of it, everything on all the floors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
went through all
Yeah.
of them.
So,
Yeah, we saw it all.
can we meet together then the following Tuesday?
And so, yeah, so when, what, the 18th, 25th, whatever works for y'all.
3:30, I could do. Yeah.
Okay, 3:30 on the 18th?
We're hoping you can.
Hoping I can.
Okay.
18th.
Okay, so next meeting here, I thought it was gonna be February, it's gonna, in March, it's gonna be February 18th at 3:30 PM. And the focus on the discussion is gonna be the facilities and our communication with the commissioners. So, Mary Ann, I look forward to meeting with you tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll get something knocked out, send it to AK, she can circulate it, see what we end up with.
So if there are discussions with elected officials between now and then, it could be said that we're working on a resolution.
Right.
That we would formally present to the county commissioners.
In the meantime, you could share the resolution that we shared with county management so that they know, we've been looking at this, we've been concerned about this,
And this is where we've sent
and we
concerns.
met with county management, now we're talking to you.
Yep. Good.
All righty. Hey, Cheryl.
Cheryl Williams, League of Women Voters. I just wondered, is there any way for members of the public to get floor plans of this space in?
Thank you for reminding me. Thank you very, very much for reminding me. I will talk with staff about this because we have discussed these floor plans in our meetings and therefore they should be appended to our meeting minutes, which I know they haven't been. I know they haven't been, but they're going to be because inasmuch as we have discussed this in a public meeting,
It is
these are
public
public
record.
documents. I don't see anything that says confidential on this.
Says
I mean, I
draft,
don't think I'm-
doesn't it? Does it say
Oh,
draft?
okay. Let me put it this way. Out of an abundance of caution, we'll double check with the powers that be to make sure that nobody has any issues with this. If they do have issues with this, we will let you know. But I would expect these to be posted pretty soon on our website. And if we're not able to do that, then I'll get copies made for interested parties.
And incidentally, want to make it clear that it was the public that asked for the,
Good
Right.
point.
not us offering to share them.
The
Right,
public
but
asked.
it's
It initiated, it
pub-
was
pub-
initiated.
pub-
from
public
that.
meeting, public document.
In a public meeting, a request was made,
Thank you.
informal records request.
So then can we request that through the portal, and then that way we can go through the,
I wondered about that. I can definitely go ahead and do that.
yeah, if you'll do that, then
Start
that
with
will,
that one.
then we can
Mhm.
do
That
it.
could- that puts it in the
Do
record.
you know if that would be an appropriate, a vehicle to use for getting a floor plan of this space or a copy of your evacuation plan, if that's the closest proxy?
Yeah, I think it works just, yeah, because we talked about that in here, I mean, we don't know.
I'm pretty sure the floor plans are public record anyway.
Cheryl, just so you know, the title is 35 Woodfin Renovation.
Thank you.
Because that way, because I don't know the answers about the ground plans, like, I've not seen those, so, but that way we can get up to the people who would.
All right, everybody. Mr. Black, thank you. I'm sorry to make you wait so long before recognizing.